Lara.
Folks, have you heard of HeShirtSheShirt.com? Legitimately, have you heard of them? Number one on Pornhub, number one on Grindr. A monthly sexy calendar hanging in Russell's closet. I mean, come on. How have you not heard of them? They're the amazing shirt store where you can get 10% off your order with the code JSGCast. And don't worry, nobody doled out any favors for that code. Nobody at all. Okay, maybe Death did, but he ain't talking because of the raccoons. And don't ask. Death keeps a weird agenda with wildlife. It's totally against PETA's code. So instead, go sail the seven seas with Jack Sparrow and a new shirt, and forget 5 seconds that this ad was. Forget for 5 seconds that this ad was written at 11:45 p.m. Eastern. You'll forget after one of the hosts shows their gluts. Glutes? Glutes. No worries. And now, please enjoy this episode of JSG Cast.
You know, for him literally making it up as he went to send it to us as we were getting ready to record the show, that was a pretty good read.
That was pretty legit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he got the references. You couldn't even tell a difference until I brought it up and he brought it up. Mm-hmm. You know, it sounded like he'd pre-written it, put a lot of thought, a lot of time, years even, baking it, making it the perfect form of ad read it could be. Is that the sound of baking?
I assume that this is what happens when people bake.
They look like an evil scientist having an orgasm. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Well,
that's
everybody,
actually my evil laugh.
You know, I'm starting to realize you evil laugh a lot. I'm sensing a pattern here. Are you just always so aroused? Is that what's up? My evil plan will come to fruition.
Could you imagine, though, like you're hanging out in front of the superhero, right? And you're about to turn on the death ray, and you just start going,
Yeah.
They always joke about the superheroes getting the moment while the villain is monologuing or laughing. And I'm just saying, if I were a superhero, I'd be so stunned at that moment that I don't think I'd be able to do anything.
I don't expect you to talk, Mr. Bond. I expect you to finish. Just like we should finish our intros here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to episode 104 of Just Some Guardians. I'm your host for the evening, Mr.
105.
I went and looked it up. It was 104.
Okay, all right.
I'm your host for the evening, ELMMERFUDD Games. Joining me tonight, we have the effervescent Russ.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, God, how are you, stud?
It kind of hurts my neck a little bit.
Well, yeah, you're like locking up your whole body.
Oh, man. Ooh, I think I need.
Who knew fake orgasms was a good workout?
Oh,
come on. You've got a lot of big... What's going on with you? You got some big news this week. You actually have good talking points for this.
For once in my life, maybe.
For once.
So actually, last week, I've been tooling around with the idea of getting a gaming PC for a while. Because
a long while.
Yeah, well, Brett and most of the people that I used to game with on the PlayStation, they all decided a computer was way better. So,
well, I mean, it is true. There's that.
Yeah, and once Red Dead showed up on the PC, there was no reason to play on the PlayStation for them. For me, I still enjoy the PlayStation. I just have anyway. The point is, I got a lovely new PC.
Ooh.
I will show it off.
Oh man, looking good. Damn.
And I was waiting for a while because I was like, oh, well, I wanted an NVIDIA 3070 graphics card, and they were sold out, and will probably be sold out for a while.
That sounds about right.
So I ended up getting the AMD
numbers.
Yeah. Which is still like a pretty decent processor. And I got a pretty good deal on it. and so I went ahead and bought it. And then I had been saving up, and I had saved up for the monitor, so I got myself a nice little Predator monitor and all that jazz. And so for the last week, I have become addicted.
Welcome to the Church of Frames, my friend.
Right. I have been playing a lot with Gunbait and Elmmer and some of the other guys.
Woo! Which is exactly what you've been wanting to do. And it makes me happy we've been able to do that, man.
Yeah, well, it's great because, usually, like, you guys are, like, at least Gunbait, you guys are usually on when I'm on, too. So even if I only have, like, an hour during the day, somebody's there usually playing. And so it's fun because I'm like, oh, this is much... I like playing... Like, my plan is still to play, like, a lot of my single-player games and stuff like that on the PlayStation. But, and this is mostly going to be for, like, multiplayer games or first-person review games, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed it so far. I've been playing through Baldur's Gate, which is something that set my Mac on fire.
Literally?
Not literally, but it certainly felt like it. Like, if I had it in my lap, it would burn my thighs.
That's why I said literally, because I remember you saying that. Like, I think part of my pants are missing.
Mm-hmm. And I've been playing some StarCraft with some other friends of mine as well. And then,
how's that been going, actually? I haven't been able to hear about that.
I mean, it's pretty good. I'm terrible at StarCraft. I mean, I'm okay, but, like, anybody who has been playing it for a while would totally trash me. I can't get my actions per minute above 30. Like, I'm hanging right around 30 right now. And, like, most people... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think mine's like 19. So, yeah, you could probably rock my world.
Well, and I mean, like, most... Like, people who have been playing it and know what they're doing. They're, like, my friend of mine, he's, like, 60, 70 actions per minute.
That's insane. That's absolutely
And so, I won't play against him because he totally trashes me every time. And so it's fun. I mean, it's fun. It's fun playing with them because it's the only, like, because this is the group that I usually play D&D with. We haven't been playing D&D lately because people have been pregnant and COVID and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a good way to hang out with them. I mean, usually we try to hang out every couple of weeks anyway in person. We play Magic usually. So it's been good to be able to play something with them throughout the week too. And then I've been playing a lot of Last Oasis.
Yes. Oh, God. And that works. We were just talking about it last week, that you would enjoy it. I told a couple stories. Like, it's fresh on the listener's mind because that was just last episode. And here you are, able to join in.
Well, and now I have some better talking points for it, right?
Well, yeah, because you didn't know anything about it last time.
Right. No, I have more than I can add to it. So we've been playing that a lot. And so a couple of things happened this week. So first time playing it, Elmmer. So there is this...
Last Oasis stories?
So there is this giant crab monster that was on the map that we were on, the tile, as they're called in Last Oasis. And it's massive. I mean, it's like a 2-story monster crustacean creature that kind of reminds me of what's his name? Waterloo from Monsters Inc.
Waterloo. Oh yeah.
Like the big spider guy.
Yeah. With the carapace looking dude, yeah.
Yeah. And it just chills in the middle of the map. And so it's my first time playing, and Brett's like, hey, I've got to go. They call him Kevin, and Brett's like, I've got to go introduce you to Kevin. And so I'm like, I don't wanna. But Brett was driving, so he took me over there whether I wanted to or not. And I'm like, oh, okay, I've seen him now. Like, we can leave. Like, I don't want to tussle with this guy. He looks like he's bad news. And Brett's like, no, shoot a harpoon at him. Go on. Shoot a harpoon.
Yeah, you gotta knock on Kevin's door.
Oh, so I go and I'm like, fine. And I'm like shooting a harpoon at him. I miss like the first 5 shots. And then finally I figured out, oh, this is how you aim it. And so I shot him, and about the time that I shot him, it starts to get dark. And like I said, this is my first time playing, so I wasn't real sure what's happening. But Brett's like, "Oh, it's eclipse! Quick, run!" And I'm like,
This is
"Run!
the worst
You're
possible
driving!"
time for an eclipse.
So Elmer's like, "Oh, okay." So he starts driving away, and he's like, "Don't worry, this ship can't be tipped, because apparently ships can be tipped over."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Kevin does. He tips your ship over, and then he crushes you to death. And so Elmer is driving, but it's an eclipse, which means that the sun is covered and you can't see anything at all.
For I think it's 30 seconds or something like that.
So all I see is like a prompt on my screen that's like flip walker, flip walker, flip walker, and I'm like, oh crap, we've been flipped over. I need to run. So I like start running, and I run off the side of the ship unbeknownst to me. And so then at about that time is when it actually starts to get light again. And so I'm just like running, and I see these big crustaceous trunks coming down from the sky around me. And I'm like, and Brett's like, grapple on, grapple on, grapple on, because there's a grapple hook in this game. And I'm like, where? And so he kills me. And so you have 30 seconds, and then you're like unconscious for that time, and then you can pop back up. And if you can get away and survive, then you get to keep all your stuff, because otherwise you die, you drop your stuff, and you have to spawn back and try and get it back. And so I like the 30 seconds timer, and like Kevin kind of backs off for a second, and I pop up, and about that time is when Elmer comes like his walker, just like I feel like the brakes were screeching, and it's like, as it like peels past me, and I like run and I grapple onto it and zoom up onto the ship, and we managed to get away from Kevin. So that was my first experience with Kevin.
Dude, I legitly like. If it'd taken half a second longer for you to fire, we probably would have been okay. Because it was like, I saw you went, oh, this is how I aim. And I saw you line up. And as I heard the sound of the bolt shot, poof, the split second that happened, suddenly it started getting darker. And I was like, oh, fuck. And you just, like, you can see the sun glistening off this bolt as it's slowly flying through the air. And then the sun disappears. You hear the thunk. Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's my first experience with Kevin.
Great first Kevin
experience. Had a great time. And I think we would have been okay too if you hadn't hit that rock.
Oh yeah, because we couldn't see anything. So
yeah,
we just ran headfirst into a rock and got stuck.
So I had a second experience with Kevin, and this was when I think Gunbait was on the server, but I was playing by myself.
Ooh, I don't know this one. Yay.
Yeah, you haven't heard this one. So I had gone and I was like making tablets. And I was coming back to my base because you were getting ready to stream. So I was still playing while I was watching you, or while you were getting ready. And I'm making my way across the middle of the map. And I had done this before and Kevin wasn't there. So I'm driving and I've just got the forward button pressed, and then I see that I got a text from you. So I pick up the phone.
Oh no.
And you were like, oh, I'm streaming. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so I am like playing with my computer, setting it up while I'm playing. And I like am waiting for a page to load, and I look at my screen and Kevin is right in front of me. And I'm like, oh frick.
This is not gonna go well.
No, and as opposed to when we ran into him with Brett, I was in a very small ship that is quite easily flipped. I was in my dinghy. I don't know if it's actually easily flipped, but it's much smaller than your ship was, and much scarier experience. But the dinghy is faster, a little bit, and so I'm.
I don't know.
Driving.
Actually, we might have to do a race with that one because that sucker's pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, because at this point I had increased the mobility on my dinghy all the way. I had the torque and everything, so I'm like holding down the, it's like NOS or something in your walker to give it extra momentum.
Torque.
So I'm running from Kevin, and I'm like holding down the NOS, and it's like,
where's Vin Diesel in this story?
So I'm holding it down and I'm like, because I don't want to use it all, like, because I know that this is going to be a prolonged sprint as I'm trying to get away from him.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like using it to just keep ahead of him, and then he goes and he bats the walker, and when he batted the walker, it went out from underneath me and went sailing across the horizon. I swear, like, it's pertinent later in the story, but it goes so far, I have no idea where it is. I can't see the walker. I have no idea where it is. But I land, and I'm like, crap. I'm by myself. It's not like I have somebody to save me this time. So I'm trying to run from Kevin on my feet. And I'm like sprinting. And again, you got these trunks coming down. And I see this cliff
Your whole
over to the right.
screen shaking.
Yeah. I see this screen over to the right. And I'm like, oh, maybe I can climb up. And then he won't be able to follow me up this cliff. So I'm like sprinting towards the cliff to try and grapple up it and try and climb. And he just goes, I swear he looked down at me. And then went, boom! Well, and I guess he had swept me because now he hits me and bats me, and I go flying up on top of the cliff that I was gonna try to climb earlier. So he kind of like backs off, and he's sitting there as I'm like trying to regain consciousness as I'm bleeding out on the floor. And so I
slowly
finally
limping across the.
Yeah. And so I slowly regain consciousness, and I'm like, there's a boulder up ahead, and I'm like, if I can make it to this boulder, I think I'm fine. So I start running to the boulder, and luckily I make it just in time, because at this, like, as I cross over onto the boulder, I see one of his feet come down. And so I'm like, I get up on top of this boulder, and I'm looking like I'm eye level with Kevin, and I'm like, please don't kill me. And I'm like silently praying, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. And he just kind of looks at me, and then he just kind of lumbers off, and I'm like, phew. So then I start looking for my walker. He had batted the walker past this boulder. I mean, it had to be a good, I mean, like if it were in the real world, I would say it had to be like 500 or 600 feet. And it had landed right way up, and he had just batted it across the map. So I had to get down off of the boulder and then run forward into these trees and get on my walker and then hightail it back.
Jesus. Yeah,
so that was my second experience with Kevin.
We had a moment earlier where we'd gone to make tablets and Gunbait was on the front of my dinghy. And he has AFK. And so we're just cruising. I'm like, I look to the spots that Kevin's normally sitting. I'm like, all right, we're good. No Kevin. And there's this big hill. And as we crest one side of the hill, Kevin's walking up the other.
Oh, no.
So as I come up over, it's just you see his face slowly appearing. I'm like, oh! And I try to like slam on and swerve around him. And so he's right on our tail, and we end up flipping. Gunbait's not there, so there's no way to save him. So he goes flying off. So I flip the walker, and I see him going for Gunbait. I'm like, all right, I'm safe. So I take off with the dinghy, and then Gunbait comes back. I'm like, oh no, yeah, this crazy stuff happened, right? And so I swing back by to pick him up, and then realize we've been running, and he's still chasing us for a while. We were swerving through trees, going around boulders, jumping up and over things. He was just so close to us multiple times. We'd he'd get super close, and the dinghy can turn super fast. So we would just peel out around him and then end up going behind him, and you have to stop and turn around. It was awesome. And then so Gunbait gets off, and I realize we're really close to the base. Then I have to turn back I have to purposely go pick up Kevin because he's sitting near the base where he'll just run in and destroy all of our stuff. Right. So I have to purposely swoop in, make him aggro onto me, and then go on another chase to get him to drop off for me. I'm like, oh, dear God, no. But yeah, coming over that hill to meet his face was terrifying.
It's scary. Sometimes I feel, for a big guy, he's kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
He'll just pop up sometimes, and you're like, oh, gee. And you're like, especially on a little walker like a dinghy, where are you going to, you're screwed.
There's not a lot of options. Oh, yeah.
No.
If he catches you, it's bad news bears.
Yeah. Yeah. You're running from him for a while, and you just better hope that you don't get tipped over. You're going to get squashed like a bug.
But we discovered he's not the scariest thing in the game today. Gunbait and I.
Yeah. You ran into a sandworm, didn't you?
We ran into the sandworm, yeah. So we knew, we'd done some research, right? We knew if you go to the sandworm tile, right, It usually patrols the outside and won't do anything unless you attack it. And if you follow it, because we knew we wouldn't be able to kill it, just the two of us, and collect all that stuff. But we knew there are certain patches of the map where you could get worm sand by putting, the soil compactors down and everything. And then if you follow the worm around, sometimes it just drops worm silk, and you can harvest that, with your scythe. And we're like, well, okay, we can at least go over there. It's just the two of us online, like mess around, go play around. So we'll go get some worm sand and some worm silk because we're to a point where a lot of the stuff we want to craft requires that. So we jump over there and we're cruising around. First of all, it's just sand, like tall sand dunes everywhere. And there's a constant legit sandstorm happening where you can't see very far any direction. Mm-hmm. It's already just a terrifying tile to be on. And so we're cruising around, and we find a part where I'm like, I think this is the sand we can use. And so he puts the compactor down there. He's like, sweet, we're getting worm sand. This is perfect. And we're sitting there maybe 8 seconds. And we hear this in the distance. And we're like looking around. What the F is that? And out of the sand dune right next to us, like, gotta be like 3 times the size of my big ass walker. This huge mouth comes flying out, attached to this insanely long worm. And there's just legs flapping off of its body everywhere. And we're like, oh, fuck! And take off on the dinghy. And it goes mouth first over our soil compactor or excavator. Boom! Like, I don't know if that aggroed it or what, but the second we put it down, this thing was beelining it for us. And so we start running away from this thing as it's chasing us, bounding over and flying next to us, and we're having to do the same thing with the rock monster with Kevin, is like just quickly spin and turn to get next to it, and we're running its full length as it's running past us, and it's just half your screen is just worm body for an uncomfortable amount of time while you're running the other way.
Yeah.
This thing is huge. So we get it. It finally kind of goes off in the distance. We start following it and we're like, oh, there's the silk. So we're getting worm silk. We keep following it. And there's a point of interest, which is where we make the tablets and stuff. You know what those look like. Yeah. It's this giant, ancient-looking city thing, right? And it was hilarious because the worm had, like, burrowed under it, but its body was, like, balancing on top of the structure. So there's this giant worm just, like, dangling back and forth. And we're like, what if he's stuck up there? Maybe we could kill him if we just spent an hour shooting at him slowly while he's stuck up there, right? But so we get some more worm silk, and then all of a sudden he disappears off the other side of it, and we hear that same like sound, and we're like, "Oh shit!" And so we turn around to just run the other way, and we're like, "We're just gonna get far away, regroup, figure it out." And so and we see the worm in the distance, and it goes underground, and we're like, "All right, that's what it did when it finished chasing us earlier. I think we're safe. I think we're okay. Let's loop around, see if maybe we can get some more worm sand, try to follow its trail again." And then all of a sudden your screen starts shaking. And I go, "Why is everything so shaky?" And Gutmate goes, "Yeah, why is that?" And as we finish saying, the worm comes out of the ground underneath the walker. Poof, launches us into the air. We're spinning out of control in the air while the whole worm body and we're just screaming, "Ah! Oh no! Oh my God! Stay on! Hold tight! Holy shit!" Screaming. The walker hits the ground. We get it flipped. Gunbait gets on first, and I'm running toward him screaming, "Drive! Drive! Drive!" As the worm's like sneaking up behind us again. And we get on, and he's like, "Do we want more stuff?" And I'm like, "No! Leave! We're done!" So we're beelining it for the edge of the map while this worm is hot on our tail. And we're watching, you know how you disappear into the oasis to leave the map? Mm-hmm. Like, as that fog's coming over us in the distance, you can still see the worm just getting bigger and bigger. And I'm like, "Leave! No! Leave!
We're going to have to go there tonight. Or tonight or tomorrow.
We're going there tomorrow. We got to hunt the worm tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the day. We're killing that bitch. We're going to attempt to kill that bitch.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like, I watched videos and I was like, that sucker's mean. And to actually see it like face to face, you're like, this is terrifying, dude.
See, and part of me doesn't want to watch any videos until I've experienced it.
No, I highly recommend
myself.
doing it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might
Absolutely.
wait to watch the video that you guys put on there.
Yeah.
Elmmer and Gunbait have posted some videos on our Last Oasis channel on your channel, right?
In
The
my
ELMMERFUDD
Discord,
games?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So definitely go and check that out because it's a fun time. Gunbait has a video on there of so I was crafting the other day, and I'm just like because sometimes in these survival games I just like to go and collect things and then bring them over and just collect and build and do whatever. So I'm doing that because I was trying to make what's called a sing blade, which is like a really good weapon that you can have.
It looks kind of like a katana.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but you need like a lot of stuff that I just didn't have on hand, so I had to go and be able to collect the stuff. So I'm like going, and I've got a furnace that I built, and that's running, trying to create ceramic tiles or ceramic shards, and then I'm trying to get clay to keep making ceramic shards, and so I need ash to create the clay, so I'm just burning a whole bunch of wood in my campfire on my dinghy so that I can just quickly dump that into the clay, then run back over, get the ceramic shards, or put more fuel into the furnace or whatever I need to do. So I'm just kind of running back and forth, and I come back to my base, and I noticed like there's all this smoke, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I mean, my furnace has been running for a while, so it must just be that it's gotten smoky in this area from the furnace running. And then I go back and I'm like harvesting clay, and I notice my ship is doing the same thing, and I'm like, that's weird. I've never noticed that before, but it must be from the fire. It must just be the smoke getting created from the fire. I was wrong. Gunbait had apparently been throwing smoke bombs at me for 30-45 minutes. I mean, it was a long time. He was just throwing smoke bomb after smoke bomb after smoke bomb after smoke bomb, and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Like, what's happening here? And it was just, and then I just see this little like in the text box that's like, oh, is it smoky over where you are, Russell? And I'm like, God, you suck so bad. You're the worst.
Yeah, I logged in. Was that yesterday? And he was like, hey, do you want to throw smoke bombs at Russell? And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And so I'm sitting on the deck of his giant ass ship, just on the catapult, just lobbing smoke bombs at you. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I hadn't used those yet.
It's the worst because you can't see your grapple points, so you can't see anything. And I'm like, so I just like fall off on my base and then stumble around until I ran into my dinghy. And then I would try to climb up on it, and it made everything so much slower. And I can't believe it took me that long to realize that it was just Gunbait throwing smoke bombs at me the entire time.
Well, it's not something you expect. You're like, all right, I'm nomad. I'm tying sticks together, and oh, there's a trebuchet launching smoke bombs at me. Like, those aren't two things that go hand in hand right away.
I just did not even connect.
So having a PC is going well for you then?
Yes, I love it. Like Lindsay, my wife is very cool and very understanding, and so she's like, "Do you love it?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And most nights I'm like, 9:00, cool. That's close enough to when she goes to bed. We've had our cuddle time. Now I can go and game a little bit, and or I'll try to do it before she gets home, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm just like, and like you said, dude, like I'm just loving being able to game with you again.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the best part for me, honestly. Like, it wouldn't be having nearly as much fun if it wasn't for just being able to play with you guys. Like, I love that most of the time when I log on, and probably partially this is because Gunbait's been on vacation this week.
Yeah,
but he's usually on, or he's usually on when I'm on.
Yeah.
So it's fun, and even though we're not chatting or anything like that, but I'll be like, hey, well, what about this? And what about that? And, and then you're usually on in the evenings.
Yeah, I'm usually on late, which is work. which is good because that's usually when you're finishing all of your normal work stuff. So
Exactly. And so usually I'm getting on. I'm usually on just a little bit before you are, and then you usually come on, and we're able to at least game for sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, depending on the day. But we at least get to game with each other a couple of times, a few times a week actually. I mean, it's been most of the week.
yeah, it's been great to the last week we've been able to game more than we have the last year and a half, 2 years together.
Yeah,
It's been awesome.
Since we stopped playing Destiny.
Yeah, and then
Or
we went
Red Dead.
Yeah, Red Dead.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
So what? Tell me now. You asked how I'm doing. How have you been doing?
Oh shit! Yeah, I'm doing wonderful, man. I've got the next couple days off. We were, I'm a little bummed. I'd planned on us going camping this weekend, and that didn't go through. So I'm a little bummed. But
so you had taken these as like, hey, I want these days off. So you guys
no. So every 5 weeks, I have a long weekend.
Oh, okay.
Because of how the scheduling works with the post office.
Sure.
So I thought we'd plan that out. It was just a miscommunication of when my weekend was, I think, with the rest of the family. So some other stuff had come up, but it's whatever. Sure. But still not like at the same time, it's nice because this last week was really hot.
Oh,
and with the walking route and how, Amazon Prime Day was Monday. So walking all day in the heat with all the Amazon packages on top of everything else, I'm beat. So at the same time, it's kind of nice to just not have to do anything for a few days, and just kind of recuperate and get your mind back in focus.
I get that. Today, I had closed my laptop and because I get done at 4. I work from 7 to 4. Or every weekday. And so Lindsay has a half day on Fridays. And so she was home and I closed my laptop and I was like, I'm free. I don't have to do anything for the next couple of days for work. I'm free. So,
I did it.
Russell's free. And it's a nice feeling. I know having a job is good for you because you need money to live.
Yeah, and that sucks.
But working sucks.
Working does suck.
I so wish I could do this all day.
Me too. That'd be wonderful.
So I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. And then I get to see you your next long weekend, right? Because that'll be 30th,
for my birthday.
Right?
Yeah, for my birthday.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited to hold you.
I'm excited to hold you.
Me too.
Right
And so many of our listeners know a wonderful human being named Cheesy, who's been on the show previously. He's going to be here as well. I get to meet him face to face for the first time. Same with Russell. Meet him first time. It's going to be a good time.
I'll meet Brett for the first time.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. We've never seen we've never even looked at each other. I don't even know what he looks like.
Yeah, I know.
So
gosh.
I'm pretty excited to find out. Well, I don't know about exciting. I'm scared. Because, what if it's haunting? And then every time we do this podcast, that's all I think about is what you look like in real life. Yeah.
This is just a filter.
Oh, that's pretty fancy. What really, filter is that?
It's the handsome man, sexy filter.
The guy with voluptuous hair?
Guy with voluptuous hair filter. Really, I'm bald.
I'm bald. There's just divots for some reason all over me. It's weird, yeah.
I'm about 200 pounds heavier. A few warts.
Not just a few.
Herpes.
What was that, the first episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Was that Scully that put his foot on the table and the bottom of his foot was yellow? He's like, oh yeah, the whole thing's wart.
That is such a good show. I haven't
it's
seen
a really good show
in a long time, but I need to go back and watch it. Also, another good show, Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Recreation is good, yeah.
And The Office. Two of my favorite shows.
Yeah. Do you know what other word is kind of like show? What does a show give you, Russell?
Bow?
A
Hello?
show gives you entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like the Electronic Entertainment Expo.
I see. I see the segue you're trying to do.
I lost it halfway through.
It was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to make it work.
I mean, we got there.
I think it was how confident I appeared when I said it. I think really sold it.
Yes,
You felt the confidence, right?
I did. I always feel your confidence.
All right, good. Hell yeah. Yeah, so E3 happened a couple weeks ago. We'd planned to sit down last week and just really deep dive into E3. But we just, we weren't able to record. And we still haven't figured out why. None of us can remember what happened that night.
I can't remember.
But yeah, so instead of doing a deep dive, because it's been a couple weeks, like every show has done a deep dive, everyone has their things. We just kind of want to give our own thoughts, maybe like 2 games that we're like super excited for, and then make it a short show and get out of here. What do you think?
You just want to go back and play Last Oasis.
So do you.
I do. Yeah, I mean, so there were a couple, because I didn't get to watch it live. I watched a bunch of the trailers and stuff that I saw, and honestly, it's been a couple of weeks since I watched them, so now I've forgotten most of them.
Perfect.
I did really enjoy it was the Super Smash Brothers reveal.
Oh yes.
I can't remember that guy. What's the guy's name from Tekken?
I know his last name is Kazuya. Or Kazima.
See, I think it is Kazima.
Kazima.
Anyway.
Is it Jin Kazima? No. Which one is he? I remember Kazima. I remember that.
Somebody will probably correct it. Clear Knight will probably let us know here in a minute.
I've got it.
So he like they have this trailer where it shows some battle footage of him, but the funniest part is like, because I think it was in like Tekken 2 or something like that. There's a thing at the end where he throws his grandfather into a volcano. Uh-huh. Well, first his grandfather threw him into a volcano, and then he retaliates by throwing him into a volcano. So you just see him taking a set of like all the characters that are in Super Smash Brothers and throwing them into the volcano. And my favorite part is when he goes and he throws in Kirby, and then it's just a few seconds later, and then you see Kirby boop, 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 floating up out of the volcano, and he doesn't realize it.
Oh yeah, it's like my sweet little boy. His name is Kazuya Mishima. But he's part of the Kazama family. I know he's part of the Kazama family.
So close. And then there was a game called Babylon Fall, which looks pretty cool.
That does look pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be what are they called? It's supposed to be a multiplayer, like looter slasher kind of. It looks like it's kind of going to be in the vein of Godfall.
I could see that, yeah.
I will say this. I enjoyed Godfall. It wasn't a great game. But for a looter shooter, or not for a looter shooter, a looter slasher looter?
Slasher, looter, shooter, slasher.
A schluter? A schluter. We'll call it a schluter.
I'm a Spaniard.
It's the first real schluter of its type.
Ooh, that could have been nasty.
So it was good enough for what it is, but I'm excited for Babylon Fall because it looks like they've upped the ante, and I hope that looter slashers become a thing, because as much as I enjoy playing Destiny, but I am a sword and board person. Sword and sorcery.
And the looter shooter thing became so big that everyone made one.
And I'm hoping that happens with looter slashers, because I would love to have a game where I run around with a sword or sorcery and blow things up in the same vein as like Destiny, because Destiny is a good game. It has really good gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
But just having something that is, where you have a sword or you have a sorcery just appeals to me so much more.
Oh yeah, no, a game. Yeah, if there was a game a lot like Destiny, but it was like sword and board high fantasy. But the multiplayer aspect of Destiny, where you have your clans, you have your big social space. There's raids. There's strikes, aka dungeons, or kind of things you could do to level up your character, and you get best in slot pieces for everything. You know, like an MMO without being a traditional MMORPG. You know, yeah,
Right.
that'd be a fantastic game.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I want something like that, and it seems like it's becoming a thing. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I've noticed that we kind of get like a lot of, you know, sword and shield slasher games, and then we'll get a lot of shooters, and then we'll go back to that. So it kind of goes in a round robin. And I think you're right. I think we're slooping back into the sword and board aspect.
I hope so. I mean, because a lot of the things revealed at E3 are in that vein.
Yeah.
What was one that you saw that you're looking forward to?
I mean, straight out of the gate, the one I was almost most excited for, because it's a game I've put a lot of time into over the years, is Age of Empires 4.
Oh yeah.
RTS games are some of my favorite thing that I don't get to play a whole lot of, because they just, I don't know, it's not a lot of them come out that I really enjoy. But Age of Empires just has a sweet spot, and it just does something really right. Age of Empires 2 is one of my favorite games. It was one of my most played games, I think. I didn't play the third one a ton, but the second one, amazing. And so to see a fourth one and that gameplay looked really good. And yeah, I'm just excited to have another RTS game in my life.
And I've never played Age of Empires.
Age of Empires is good. We'll have to play. They did a HD remake on Steam. We'll have to play it.
I'm excited to be able to play it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's like $5. It's super cheap.
Well, and I enjoy real time strategies.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I enjoy StarCraft. I wish they would do another Warcraft.
Yeah, no, I would love another Warcraft RTS.
I wish they would do like a Warcraft.
Yeah. Well, I think strategy. Because they're just moving the story forward with World of Warcraft, which is huge. But yeah, I would love another Warcraft RTS. Warcraft 2 was another one of my most played RTSs ever. Like that was a phenomenal game.
That was a good game. That was the one that explored like the origins of the Witch King, right?
No, that was the third one. Was the Lich King. Warcraft 2 was just war. It was just
I think I played, like I remember Warcraft 2. I had gotten Warcraft 3 like as a remastered edition. This was like 10 years ago. Because I had never played Warcraft 3, but I had played like Warcraft 2.
And Clear Knight, with your thing, I don't think they really failed with Warcraft 3, the remaster. I think they did with the multiplayer. But the playing through the campaign of Warcraft 3 Remastered was a really good experience. I think they did a fantastic job. But yeah, they really messed up with the multiplayer. And yeah, that could be it. Hopefully that's not why, or hopefully that doesn't cause them to not do another Warcraft RTS, because that was, the sales were there. People were excited for it. It just, the multiplayer wasn't there to hold people on for very long.
And honestly, I had gotten Warcraft 3 to be able to play through the story mission because the Lich King, I mean, I love necromancers. I love liches.
Oh yeah.
And so I wanted to play through, especially because I love villain origin stories, superhero origin stories, villain origin stories. I love that, and his story was pretty cool. Prince
it was
Arthas,
really good.
Who goes here and then gets corrupted. Isn't that what it is?
Arthas.
Arthas.
I want it to be Arthas though. That sounds way better.
Is that not Arthas?
Arthas.
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 I'm not hearing a difference here.
It's like Arthas. You're saying ass, a very hard ass.
I'm playing it up a bit. I'm making a bit here. No,
it's hard. Your camera keeps freezing, so I couldn't see the smile. I'm sorry.
Does it really? Or are you just saying that? I can fix it if my camera keeps freezing.
Oh, that's good water. What were we talking about?
So another one that I'm excited for is Halo Infinite.
Ooh, I didn't realize that'd be something you were into. Yeah.
Oh, I love the Halo games.
Oh yeah, I just haven't heard you talk about Halo since like we were in school. So like I just didn't expect it.
I haven't had an Xbox.
That's true.
Since shortly after I was out of high school, so I never got to play 5, 4,
probably 4 and 5. Because I think it was Halo Reach was the last one Bungie made, and then Halo. Yeah,
because it was Halo
4 and
1,
5.
2, and 3, and then Halo Reach.
Mm-hmm.
There was also ODST,
ODST. Yep.
and then I think the next one in the actual
Numbered series. Yeah.
numbered series was Halo 4, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get to play that one, but I watched it because I didn't have an Xbox at the time. But now, because I mean, Microsoft, I mean, they'll release it on the computer.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Now that you have PC, man, I highly recommend the Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right?
So good.
So now that I have a computer, I can use this for the Microsoft games, Bethesda, Starfield, which is another one they announced during E3 that's not coming to the PlayStation, that's coming to Microsoft platforms.
Yeah.
And that was another thing. So now I have this and I can play the Microsoft games, Infinite, Halo Infinite, things like that. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the Halo games. I read like all the books. Well, I didn't read all the books. I read a lot of the books. Mostly the ones that had Master Chief because he was cool. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see more of it. It does look like they're going back to Master Chief, which
Absolutely, which I'm very
yeah,
excited for.
I feel like that was not necessarily a failure. It progressed the story. It made some sense, but I don't play a Halo game to play as anybody but Master Chief.
Like it worked in Reach, but it's kind of the only reason it worked was because you were a whole. It was almost like you needed a whole squad of people to be one Master Chief, and that's what made it work.
Well, and in the books, like he is the best of the Spartans.
Oh yeah.
And then that they restarted the Spartans in 4. I mean, like, there was some interesting stuff in 4. No,
Yeah,
5.
if you get
It was Halo 5 because 4, you were on the planet with the Forerunners and you actually met one of the Forerunners and he was super evil. And then Cortana goes into the thing in Mabobber. And then Halo 5 is when you.
Yeah,
It's
now
Halo 5.
this just popped in my head, Russ, because if you get the Xbox Game Pass, right? Included with it is the Master Chief bundle. So that's got
Really?
Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, ODST, Halo 4, and Halo Reach in it. And that's just part of you just get that, right? But I never played through Halo 4, so we could play through that campaign together. And then know how we used to play through all the campaigns together all the time?
Yeah.
We could sit down and play through these campaigns again, man.
Yeah, and you could stream it.
What a memory. And then yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is so, and I feel kind of bad, but this is the first time I've watched your stream in a while, just recently, because a lot of times I'm busy. But so I was like, this would be a perfect. You are so good.
Thank you.
Like legitimately, the whole time you were entertaining. You explained what was happening in the story. So like, if people hadn't watched with you previously, so then they were kind of caught up and they knew what was going on a little bit, and you were on, you were great. If anybody has not watched your stream on Twitch, they should, because it's fantastic.
Dude, I'm grinning ear to ear, except I have a small mouth, so it can't go ear to ear, but thank you, man. That was really nice of you.
It is one of the best Twitch streams that I've watched.
Thanks, man. Wow.
Like of somebody playing a game, it was legit.
Thank you, man. That was also like we had some, and it worked out because there was some like really intense, like hard hitting real life shit moments going on in that game, man.
Oh yeah, like what you were.
We got to sit down and talk about.
Yeah. Like and that was cool. Like you were interacting with the chat well. You were playing the game, and it was a good time.
For anyone to understand, we were doing the loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2 for Jacob, and then we also did the one for Jack, which have some very interesting themes to discuss, and when we deep dived into those, and it was really good. Thanks, man.
You are welcome. Like, thank you. Like, I'm like, man, I need to make this part of my schedule is to go ahead and watch him when he's streaming because this is really good.
Only took 3 years.
And I've been subscribed for you for that amount of time.
You have. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Like
Blame, I know you've got.
This is your 36-month anniversary, and I was like, oh yeah.
Glad I watched it. No, I know, dude. I totally
time.
get it. No, I totally get it, man. Time is a hard thing to have, especially when you're working all the stuff you are. But yeah, again, dude, Game Pass. You can play Sea of Thieves for free. Astroneer's a great game. Deep Rock Galactic, Golf with Friends. There's just such a huge library of games for $15 a month. I think it's $15 a month. But yeah, Xbox. And then so most of the games that launch for Xbox, you get to just play as part of that day one without buying the game. So yeah, one of the best deals you can get as a PC gamer, hands down.
And I've seen some trailers. Clear Knight brought this up in the chat. He was talking about the PvP for Halo Infinite.
Yeah, and how that's going to be free.
And Halo Infinite, or Halo itself, has always had great PvP.
Oh yeah,
I mean, there are some really douchey people in there, but it has always felt good when you're in there in the PvP. Like, that was the thing that got me into PvP.
Oh yeah,
that was the first like legit PvP game, and I remember we used to set up LAN parties and stuff like that to be able to play Halo, the PvP. And so I'm excited about that. I've seen some trailers of it. It looks really good. I think it's, and I think they have like a beta or something out now, don't they? Or that's about to come out?
Oh, maybe.
Or they're gonna have the PvP out before Halo Infinite so that you can go ahead and test it and play it.
That makes sense. They usually do betas for all the Halo games. That makes sense. That's coming up.
Yeah, I think they do. I think I heard about that. Clear Knight will probably correct me here in a minute, and then we'll be able to give you the correct information.
Right. But I think they're making the multiplayer a separate thing and have, well, not, it is kind of separate, but making it so the PvP is free is a really good move. Like,
it really is.
In a day and age where you've got Battlefield coming out soon, there's always a new COD, Overwatch 2 is coming in the near future. Like, to be where you haven't had a good Halo PvP game in a long time, and there's some heavy hitters out there, like, that is a smart move, is having that free to play to get people in there.
And here's the thing. I think Microsoft realizes people will get into the PvP, and they're probably going to have microtransactions because it's free.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There'll be a battle pass of some sort. You unlock, because there's different, like, you can have custom helmets, shoulder pads, all that stuff. So I'm sure there'll be a battle pass with that stuff. There'll be events that come out where you can buy, like, an armor set. Oh, yeah, that'll all exist for sure.
I think they're smart in realizing that if people buy Halo Infinite, they're buying it to play the story campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there will probably be some cosmetics and stuff that you can bring into the multiplayer because, like you said, it's free, but also. And so I think they're being really smart about that because I feel like something that's been going around a lot in the gaming industry is, the single player story campaign is dead. Like EA, they hardly ever do a single player story campaign anymore. Star Wars Battlefront.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I think Microsoft they realize, people love their stories. They love the Halo story. They're going to pay for a single player story. They also want to play the multiplayer. They want a good single player story campaign.
Yeah. Well, I think we're starting to figure out, there are players that will get into a free shooter and they'll put hours into it and go, well, I mean, I didn't pay for the game. I've already gotten, 60 hours worth of gameplay. That's worth my time. I'll go ahead and spend money and buy this thing to support the game, right? And you get enough of those and it makes it worth it. And you have the whales out there that spend a bunch of money, but there's also that big fan base that's like, I'll pay $60 for a campaign because that's what I want to play. And so it's a brilliant way to make the money off of every kind of player. It's super smart.
Exactly. They're going to bring in the people who want to play the multiplayer, and then, they'll probably buy cosmetics because that's what people do, especially
absolutely.
If you're being able to come in for free. I mean, it's no problem to be like, I was going to buy this anyway. I'll dump $60 on the extra gear that I can get. And so I think they've set themselves up to be able to make a lot of money off of Halo Infinite.
They're smart. Oh yeah, I'm very excited because it was, and I've noticed like they've definitely upped, how PvP is going to be. Because I remember I really liked Halo Reach PvP. And when the Master Chief Collection came out, I jumped into my first match of Halo Reach PvP, and I was like, I used to like this. Oh my god, because it was a different genre, a different generation of gaming. It's like the time to kill was really long compared to where everything is like less than a second in games anymore. So like,
For sure.
it was still great, but it took a long time to get used to that because you're used to just everything's a Twitch shooter now, and so to sit down to that kind of not so much slower paced game, but like you had to really think about what you were doing to get the kill, and it like at first it was like, man, strategic. What? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, because especially in the first one, I remember like there were a lot of big maps. And so you have 3 or 4 people, which was typically how much you would have because the online multiplayer was just starting to become a thing. So it wasn't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the first one, I don't even think there was an online multiplayer, but I don't remember, to be honest with you. So you'd have 3 or 4 people. Maybe if you had a LAN, you'd have like 7 or 8. And then things got really crazy. But for the most part, you're probably playing with 3 or 4 people, and there'd be plenty of places to hide or camp, or you'd sneak up on somebody with a sword and stab them. They had a lot of verticality. They had a lot of being able to run away from somebody or get up on somebody. But their maps were designed to where you usually had a high point, so you could play as a sniper if you wanted to, or you could be able to sneak up on somebody and be able to get to them before they could snipe you. Like, it had a good balance, I felt like. But you're right, it was a little bit slower. Like, the time to kill was a little bit longer, but I kind of liked that, too, because I wasn't dying immediately every time.
Oh, yeah. No, after I got used to it, I loved it. It was just that initial shock of, it's not half a second kill time, You're like, wait, what? But yeah, once I got used to it, it was beautiful, for sure. The other game, the second game for me, actually, it's a tie. It was going to be one of my big titles I was excited for, and I'll put it just like as an honorable mention, is Stalker 2. It's such a, it's such an interesting community that like leached onto this game and became a cult classic game. So like a lot of people have no idea what the Stalker series is. But it was really good. And so watching that trailer for Stalker 2, I was like absolutely blown away. It looks so beautiful compared, from where they've come. And like to have, it's really cool for a lot of fans of that series to like see a game that's just been this kind of behind the scene, like only a certain few people like know what it is. Like have it as a big trailer scene for E3 and so many people jumping onto it going, I've never heard of this. I want to check it out and see it. And it's a really cool community. So the game is basically like, things happen, with Chernobyl, it becomes this dead zone, right? And it's full of old relics and treasure, and it's, creates some weird freaky deaky monsters and stuff in there.
It's a single player, right?
I think you can co-op it, but I've only ever played a single player. I believe Stalker 2 will be co-op, but yeah, so basically there's people that still live in that zone to try to find these relics and, survive and thrive. And they're called Stalkers, Stalkers.
It's around Chernobyl, right?
Yeah.
Did you already say that? Okay.
Yeah. So it's really cool. And so like you go through a lot of these trailers in the comment section on YouTube, and it's like, really hyped or just a bunch of negativity or just dumb comments, and like you go to the Stalker 2 and the first few comments are like, let's all take a moment of silence for everyone who, passed away, who loved the first Stalker game and could never see this happen because they waited so long. And like, this is, it was just a lot of positivity. And like, let's remember our friends who couldn't see this. I can't believe this is finally happening. Just the excitement and the buzz around it. I'm like, what a fun, it's such a cool community because they're just so happy that it exists, Well,
because it's kind of a survival horror, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there are all these weird monsters, but you're trying to accumulate things to be able to survive in this environment.
And progress further into it to find better relics that give you more money or, better standing and whatnot.
And there are choices in the game, right? Like I think I remember seeing something in like the in Stalker 1, you had like a good ending and a bad ending, depending on the choices that you had made.
Yeah, you could make entire settlements hate you or love you. There was roaming bands of bandits that like you could make, like, they'd recognize you and run, or they would just attack you, or they'd be like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" Cheeky breeky bye, and keep walking. And yeah, it was a really cool. It felt real and alive for what they were able to do, at the time. And it just wasn't a game that blew up and went mainstream, but easily could have. And now it's going to be, and it's very exciting.
I could see it being something, because the first one, from what I understand, it has a pretty rabid fan base.
Oh yeah, there's people that's the only game they've played since it launched, and that's just what they play. So yeah, but the game, so there's that game was my big one I was excited for, which I am still excited for. But a game I didn't expect that this is my number 2, even though we talked a lot about Stalker. But actually, the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
See, I'm glad that you brought that one up, because
I wasn't expecting that, and we were just talking about how much we love single player games, and there's not a lot of really good straight up story based single player games. And I think what was that last Star Wars game that came out?
The last Jedi Knight. Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, yeah. Because that was so popular, I think that really put a fire underneath people for these single player games being a big thing again. Because that was like the only thing we'd get was games like that for a long time. And it's been a while since that's been a thing. So yeah, a game in that vein.
There, big open world things, where this one,
yeah, like Star Wars, where it was a single player, but it was a more linear experience, which I really enjoy those. Yeah, focused. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very excited.
Story rather than
And Guardians of the Galaxy is amazing, and I'm excited for the humor, and they will probably get really, serious at times, and seeing all those characters that are straight from the, it's not the MCU version, it's the comic book version, which I'm excited to see that take on, and it should be great.
I don't even know if it's necessarily it's
another
version.
It's another
their own
rendition.
Version.
Yeah, it's another rendition of those characters. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Yeah, I'm excited.
They're not really following the movies. This is its own separate thing and its own universe.
And so many people were getting upset about it, and I was like, "Come on, guys! Everything can't be the a lot of people are like, this isn't MCU Guardians. I'm pissed."
Oh
yeah, that comment section was nasty.
I'm actually glad that they're not doing MCU.
Yeah, absolutely. They shouldn't.
Movie tie-ins usually aren't too great.
MCU needs to be its own thing, and Marvel Gaming, what do you want to say, the MGU, Marvel Gaming Universe? I think the comic books, the MGU, and the MCU should be, go across the same lanes as each other, obviously, because they have to cross-connect with characters, but I think they should all be their own separate renditions, for sure.
Oh, and it seems like that's the way that Square Enix is going, because this is another Square Enix game. They did the Avengers, which love it or hate it. It looked interesting. It didn't seem that it delivered a lot on what they were doing, but it seems as if they took what was good and bad about that, and they're like, okay, well, now we're going to do Guardians of the Galaxy. It's single player. It has a story campaign. You only play as Star-Lord, but you get to make choices. And from what I was seeing, depending on your choices, you get to build a better relationship with the other members of your team, or make it worse.
Yeah.
There were points where there were multiple story options, as you're the trailer that I saw, you're sitting there, you're discussing. You can choose to use a Trojan horse type thing, and you can either choose Groot or you can choose Rocket, and then you can choose there's a point where you have to cross this chasm, and Drax is like, well, I'll just throw Rocket, and Rocket's like, don't touch me, and you can either encourage Drax or side with Rocket, and if you encourage Drax, then your reputation with Rocket takes a hit.
Yeah.
So it seems as if there's some interesting story elements. And like I said, it's so focused. I'm excited to see what they do. Square Enix is usually pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Especially in the single-player avenue.
Right. And so I'm excited to see, okay, this looks good. Also, I love the character design.
Oh, they're so cool. And the combat looks really fun.
And the punk rock way that they've gone with Star-Lord
Mhm.
and the more comic booky look for
The color coordination for Drax is I really
yeah.
dig that with the white and the reds.
And Rocket kind of reminds me of a dwarf
Yeah, I
with
love his
his little
goatee going
goatee
on.
beard that he's got
Groot
going
looks
on.
badass. Like everyone looks
Groot
amazing.
looks frightening.
Yeah, which is
Like he is
perfect.
like, I am terrified of him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super glad that you talked about that, because that was one of mine where I was like, that looks like it's going to be good. And I got even more excited when I found out you're only playing as Peter Quill.
Yep.
It's focused, and it's not going to be like the Avengers where you have all the different Avengers that you can play as. And I think that's going to allow them to develop the story, develop the enemies that you run into, more so than trying to create something that's repeatable and where you can keep playing. You know what I mean? Like it's
Oh,
games
yeah.
as a service. This one doesn't seem as if it's a games as a service. This is a
Here's the story. Here's DLC we'll
right.
give you over time to give more story, and that's it.
And I am, because typically those are better made because they can focus instead of how do we create replay. You know?
Exactly. How do we make a little more money out of this? Exactly. Yeah, I'm excited for it, man. I'm really excited for it. But yeah, that's my games, and that was your games.
Well, okay. No, I know we said two, but there are a couple more I want to talk about real quick. The first one was Dying Light 2.
Yeah, that does look really good.
And there was some hesitance. A lot of people were like, is this going to be a thing? We haven't heard about this game in like a year, 2 years. Is it even still in production? We got confirmation it's still in production, and that looks awesome. So I'm excited to play that one. Another one real quick that I was excited about was Vampire the Masquerade. Not
yeah.
Vampire the Masquerade, the next game that we're looking forward to, but it looks like it's a multiplayer Swan Song, I think is what it's called. Yeah, so check it out, because it's like it's an upcoming role-playing video game. Well, Big Bad Wolf. Anyway, from what I saw, it's more of like a multiplayer thing.
Yeah.
Than the game, which is gonna than the one that we know was in development, whether or not it's still Vampire the Masquerade 2, which was going to be story focused. This one looks like it's multiplayer, which I'm down for. Like,
Yeah,
that sounds
absolutely.
super exciting to me.
Did you see that Redfall trailer?
That was the other one I was thinking of.
Okay. Yeah, that was one that I thought of you when I saw it, because that looks, it was a super beautiful cinematic trailer. But yeah, that left a lot of like interesting, like, is this going to be a Division-esque game with like magic vampire hunting powers and weaponry? Like,
Yeah.
It very interesting looking. Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about that game.
Yeah, that one looked really interesting, and it's being developed by Arcane Studios, if I'm not wrong, correct?
I believe you are correct, my friend. And that's a good sign.
They did Dishonor,
Uh-huh.
which is a great series. So I'm excited for some gameplay there. And then a Rainbow Six Extraction.
Yeah, that does.
I'm interested in. I love anything with like a fantasy bent to it, and having Rainbow Six with like zombie type stuff is kind of what it looks like.
4-player trying to escape, and it sounds a lot like permadeath too, which I'm very interested in.
Yeah, it looks interesting, and I'm excited to see it.
And then, obviously, since you're throwing out another, I'll just throw. Obviously, like, I can't go without saying Battlefield 2042. I'm insanely excited for that. Battlefield is my bread and butter. I haven't been a big fan of like when they went back to World War II, World War I. They were fun, but like it just didn't hold me like, you know, the modern era does. So I'm really excited for that. They can go just far enough in the future where they can look at like up and coming tech that we know about now and implement that into the game, which is super cool. But not so much in the future that just gets kind of weird, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, super excited for Battlefield. But yeah, here we go, man.
And I like the ones with a little bit of futuristic bent, personally, because it feels a little more fantasy.
Yeah.
Sci-fi, fantasy, those are my things. If
Battlefield,
it's too based in reality, I'm like, meh.
Battlefield 2142 is a game I've been waiting to be remade forever. because they've redone Vietnam, they've redone the World War II, like they've redone every Battlefield game except 2142, and it makes me very sad because it was one of my favorites. It's really good. Yeah, all right. You ready, Russ?
That's it for me.
Let's do our emails.
We have an email from Drafty Russ, which you know exactly what we're in for. A 3-word question.
Sure. Better than no word question.
Did it hurt?
Yes. It hurt me terribly.
Yeah,
Be
a lot.
separated from ELMMERFUDD for so long.
Aw, shit. Russ, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? Shit.
Didn't, actually.
Oh, that works out.
Well, I have a lot of padding.
No, you don't. You liar.
In my hair. My hair.
Thank you. Yep, that
You
was
have it on your
emails.
chin.
I do.
But did it hurt, Elmer? Did it hurt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it did.
Story time.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Story Time, a moment of the podcast where we come together and we tell a story in gaming, even though we started the podcast with multiple stories from Last Oasis, because that's what we're playing. So deal with it. It's our show. This is a segment that's gone back from almost the beginning. We just sit down and tell a story in gaming. That could be tabletop, video games, airsoft, whatever we used to be doing, whatever, anytime we want. We get very nostalgic on the show, and it's fun to tell a story. Russell, do you have a story for us here for Story Time?
Man, I mean, I busted my nut already. So,
Good.
You go first.
No, because I kind of need you to go first.
You would think I would prepare for this.
You'd think we would both prepare for this
every week.
Yeah.
But for some reason, anytime this happens, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm actually gonna talk about
the following thing.
I think I'm gonna talk about Conan Exiles.
Okay.
I haven't talked about that in a while. It is still one of my favorite games. I recently got it on the PC so that I could play some of it. And then eventually, when we get tired of The Last Oasis, I will probably get a server so that we can play on that as well.
I'll try it.
Think.
Therefore I am?
No. I think I'm gonna. So.
You got this.
Okay. So I'm playing on a PvE server.
Okay.
And I had found a place where I wanted to build base. Like I usually, whenever I'm on, I always build a base in this, like, the same place.
Uh-huh.
I think all of those just rhymed.
Never build a base built in the same place. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And then I had said something before that rhymed with base, but I can't remember what it was.
Face.
Anyway.
Disgrace. Displace.
So it kind of, you go along, and then there's this really good part where you're near like a lot of iron, which iron is like this huge resource in Conan Exiles where you need a lot of it all the time. And so I get there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start building this base. Well, then I had these guys come up and they're like, oh, hey, you should join us. I'm like, okay. So I started playing with them, and like I had stockpiled, like, because I'm kind of a what would you call it? A hoarder in survival games.
Yeah, I would agree.
I pick up lots of resources, and sometimes that's just what I have fun doing. I'll just go and collect resources and squirrel them away and build things and progress. And so, like, they were like, oh, okay, we'll join you. Well, they hadn't been on in forever. So I'm building up this base. I made sure to build rooms for them, So that they had
Aw.
a place to come in, and then I just kind of left them empty and was like, here's your thing. And then I built my room, and my room was the biggest because they weren't ever on. Um, and so like I had upgraded it, and I had all this stuff, and like I was to the point in Conan Exiles where I was like star metal, which is like high tier, like that's the highest tier you can get to, or at least it was at the time. They may have done more. Um, and it was a PvE server where only at certain times could people raid you. And it
Oh,
was
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. That is, I forgot that was a mechanic. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was like Friday from like 6 to 11. That was when people could raid you and like destroy your base. Um, I wasn't on, and I get on, and somebody had broken into our base and like everything. They had taken just everything.
Oh,
Everything.
no.
I was like, screw gun. And then the guys that I was playing with got on, and they were like, well, this sucks. We're never playing again. And I was like,
But
are you going to help me
I just
rebuild?
did everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That was my story. That was kind of depressing. I don't know. It was all I could think of.
I think I'm too depressed to tell a story now, too. So thanks.
Could you just not think of one?
No, that actually was just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who I am as a person anymore, Russell.
Tell me.
I have a story, but I'm talking about this right now. I just feel lost, as a human being. I just don't, who am I? Who are any of us, really?
Well, I'm Russell.
Oh, okay. Then I feel better now. So my story. So this last weekend, we did this really awesome movie night in the garage. We got I recently picked up a projector and a projector screen. It's something I always wanted to do, to have projector screen movie nights and stuff. Is just so much fun. I fucking love it, right? It was a memory, like we talked about before. I just love giving my kids memories. And I'm like, this is awesome. They're going to remember when we do all these, right? So we had one of my daughter's really good friends over, her mom. We set everything up in the garage. We watched Luca, which is that new movie from Disney, which was really good. And we had the PlayStation hooked up because for Disney Plus and whatnot. And so after we were done, I was like, hey, Ethan, you want to, try some of your games on the projector? Because it'll be so cool. Because it's like, 13 times bigger than you see it on the TV. He's like, yeah. So he's playing his Lego game and whatnot. And then, so they all leave to go clean up and say goodbye and stuff. And there was this Sonic racing game, which I'd never seen before on the PlayStation.
That's why we didn't have the show last week.
The movie night. We just figured it out. The movie night. That's why we didn't do the show. Thank you. That's right. Anyway, yeah. So I'm like, oh, I'll try this Sonic racing game out. So I click into it, go into the first race. I click hard just because, and for some reason, I'm just good at racing games. Not realistic racing games. I'll make that very clear. Like,
not like Gran Turismo,
Forza. I'm terrible at those. I haven't played them in a long
like
time.
Crash Bandicoot Racing.
Yeah,
Super
Mario Kart, stuff like that. I'm just, for some reason, I get it. So I get in this first race and I just absolutely crush it. And it was super fun. The track was cool. The graphics were nice. The racing felt really good. I couldn't figure out how to use my abilities at all. And it never popped up on the screen. It was really annoying because usually there's like a little box that tells you what item you picked up. And that wasn't anywhere.
Oh.
But yeah, like the drifting mechanic and everything. And I just tore through the track and nonchalantly won. And I was like, well, that works great. And my son comes out and watched the last half and he went, you're amazing to me. And it was just so touching. Oh, and real quick, Russell, because you'll appreciate this before we get out of here. So it was my son's birthday this week, right? So he's opening up all his presents. This is such a cool moment, Russell. You're going to fucking love this. So he opens up this Batman toy. And he's looking at Batman's face. And in the deepest voice, my 4-year-old goes, you can barely hear him. Me, my wife, and my dad were the only people in the room that could hear him. In this deep voice, he just looks at Batman and he goes, I am the knight.
Yeah.
I've never been more proud of a child in my life.
It's amazing.
It was so cool. I am the knight. Yeah, it made me really happy.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm glad. Ah, wow. Hey, Russell.
Ah.
Where can people find you? Let's get out of here. So we can go play Last Oasis.
Right. You can find me on Twitter. It is drjex, AEX 0725. And then you can also find me on Discord at Jekyll7250. And I mean, those are most of the places that you can find me. I usually hang out either in ELMMERFUDD or JSG. I'm usually in the D&D. But
that's going to expand more because you can play more of these games with us now.
No, yeah. So I'll probably be in a lot of these. Like I have the app on the computer now, and so I usually have it open so that I can see. Because like every time I've gotten on Last Oasis, I'm like, are they in the chat? Are they in the chat? Like, oh man, I can't talk to my friends. They're probably busy doing stuff.
If you just anytime you're on, just jump in the chat. Someone will usually jump in there and join you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
And yes, Gunbait, I was reading my username off iPhone.
And happy Friday to you, Adam Bomb. Hell yeah, you're a stud. Well, folks, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for episode 104 of Just Some Guardians. When we do the show, we are live. That's twitch.tv/JustSomeGuardians. Friday nights at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Go to our website, JustSomeGuardians.com, where you can get all the info you need is right there. You want to know where our audio feed is? Bam! There's a tab for that. You want to know how to watch everything on YouTube if you wanted to have the show, but watch it as the video feed? Bam! There's a tab for that. You want to watch the show live, but you don't want to go to Twitch for some reason? Bam! There's a tab that's got the live stream embedded in it, and you can just click on that, and when we go live, it's there. And all the info you need. Just go there. JustSomeGuardians.com, which will be updating and all that stuff here very shortly to match with the current times.
I actually have the login stuff.
Yes. So we'll get that done. As for myself, I'm ELMMERFUDD. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all those places at ELMMERFUDD Games. Double M, double D. Russell. Take us out.
I do want to take just 1 second and harass Gunbait because I believe we were promised intro music at some point.
Oh, since he's here live, you're going to do that to him?
Yes, because I love him.
Okay.
Because I'm listening. And then, join us next week on Just Some Guardians for Mutual Chaos and Utter Incompetency.
Wait, why did I do was that the Reading Rainbow sound? But don't take my word for it.
Was that? I know. Don't take my word for it, and I know I can go twice as high.
It's in a book. Just take.
No, you can't sing anymore. We don't want to get taken down.
Reading Rainbow. I can go anywhere. They take me down for Reading Rainbow.
Such a good song.
I'll be very disappointed in the world.
I think it's public access.
I'm pretty sure you're right. Yeah.
PBS is public access, right?
Yeah.